Hey guys, how's it going? Connie here, also known as Movie Snapper, reviewing 3 short stories for Horror Month. The Damp Man Trilogy by Alison V. Harding. So I'm currently reading a book at the moment, so I relied on an audio book for this, and came across the YouTube channel known as Horror Bubble. They read a lot of old weird tales stories, a lot of Conan and H.P. Lovecraft and a bunch of the other old anthology magazine stories. And they got the trilogy on there in one long video. It's just over 4 hours long. And they are The Damp Man, The Damp Man Returns, and The Damp Man Again. I'm going to have some, spoilers in this review, especially from the second story to the third story, because there's a big shift in focus and the way it's told there. But then again, these stories are quite old, so So these 3 stories are written by Alison V. Harding, which is a pseudonym that's attached to 2 authors, and I'm pretty sure these stories are attributed to the author Jean Milligan. But what this whole thing is you have the main character, George Pilgrim. He's a journalist, and he's going to interview a up-and-coming local swim athlete star. Her name is Linda Mallory, and when he starts to interview her, he learns she's being stalked by this large, gargantuan, bloated man known as you learn his name later, and they just call him the Damp Man, hence the name, right? Because she says he always seems really wet, like, as wet as I have been just coming out of the pool, and he's been sitting in the stands this whole time in a black suit. And George does at first he thinks she's a bit mad until he actually sees the Damp Man one of the nights. And the whole story, pretty much the first one, is trying to outsmart the Damp Man and get away from him, and to keep Linda safe. And it's just this really cool, he's always there kind of thing. Or you could almost say like teleporting, right? It doesn't always seem to make full logical sense that he's somewhere where they are, but he's just there, ever present, and it's really cool. And they find a way to outsmart him at the end of the first one by going right up to Canada, because when George shoots him, he sees water come out instead of blood, so he figures, hey, this guy's got way too much water. So they go up into freezing temperatures, and as they're running away from the Damp Man, they watch him slow down, and he sits on a bench and he's pretty much frozen solid. And George, comes back and looks at him, and instead of, just killing him like he could have, I guess there'd be no more stories, he leaves him be and goes to his uncle's place. That's where they're running to. And in The Damp Man Returns, George wants to publish the story. He's after his breakthrough story to give him that big name. And he finds out from his uncle through some letters that the Damp Man escapes the hospital he's in Canada. And he's like, he's going to be after us again. Quick, I've got to publish this story. And as he goes to the owner of his newspaper, he finds the Damp Man sitting behind the desk and is told that the Damp Man has acquired the whole business, and says it's now his. So it's like, whoa, gotcha, there he is again. And in this one, The Damp Man Returns, you find out a little bit more about him. So the Damp Man's name is Lothar Remsdorf Jr., the son of a wealthy experimental scientist who years and years ago, pretty much as big as his mountainside laboratory, blew up right? They couldn't find any traces of his body or anything. And so that's how Lotor's got his wealth, is it's his inheritance. And it's trying to outsmart him again. And in the end, they're starting to say George has gone mad as well. Like, the police don't believe him. So I think it's hinted at that Lotor's got the police on his payroll, or some of them. Really interesting if that was built up a little bit more, if I kind of missed the clarification there, that, it's a direction that could have gone in. I reckon that Lotor, like, slowly buys out and owns the whole city, kind of like Biff in Back to the Future too. And so the Damp Man Lotor succeeds in kidnapping Linda again. He does in the first one, but she escapes. And he kidnaps her in this one, and George tracks them down to Lotor's house and goes underground, and there's this whole secret lab going on. And basically it seems like Lotor wants to find a woman, or he says this in a phone call, sorry. He wants to find a woman to be able to start a new superior race. And he believes Linda is strong enough to survive this experiment, which seems to be some kind of like transfusion of his water to slowly become her life force over blood. And it's through this story you find out Lotor was experimented on by his father, and it's pretty obvious, right? The atmosphere is really cool, the way it's written. When Lotor walks, you can hear him like a sloshing noise and stuff, and just seems to be ever present again. And he has like little gangsters trying to are working for him and spying on George and help with kidnapping Linda and stuff like that. And then this is the spoiler, so skip a little bit ahead if you want. But when it seems like George has been captured as well, and Linda's about to undergo this change, Lotor's father comes down, and what is it? Lotor was in like this big like tub spa thing to prepare him for this transfusion, and then he chucks this thing in the water that makes the water boil and reacts, and basically Lotor is melted and gone. He melts and gone, right? And like, cool. So he's completely gone, and there's no way he's going to come back. So the framing device is on this one. George goes back to Lotor's house, and he conveniently finds this diary in a safe behind Lotor's portrait, and he reads these journal entries, and it kind of goes through Lotor, the different entries of 3 different women. Maybe he wasn't as cynical as he is in this, by the time he comes across Linda, where he's just like, she's mine. Because it seemed like, especially in the first woman he meets, he's really trying to have a relationship with her. And basically it goes through that these 3 women that want him, were repulsed by his physical appearance, and were just happy to go along for the ride to get money somehow out of him. The parents of one were wanting the money, and he ends up killing her after being humiliated. And there's this, I can't remember, and then one was like a lounge singer, and she really led him on really well, and he really thought she wanted him. And in the end, she'd hired some toughs to basically try and kill him and steal this money. Of course, Lotor is extremely strong as well, and he kills them, goes to her, is like, I knew what you're doing, and he kills her. And then so by the time he comes across Linda, he's just like, nah, I'm not even going to pretend to have a relationship. I'm just going to stalk her, learn about her, that's who I want, bang, and take her. And it was kind of interesting with the framing device of the journal entries, but I just found it kind of lost some of its punch because instead of George and Linda running away and being stalked and he's always there, it's just these are my failed attempts for this superior human race with these other women, and now this is why I'm cynical and I'm going to just go after the next person I find. So I just feel like it took a little bit away, like the mystery of the character, instead of him just being there, kind of like he was with the first two. But I guess there's no other logical way it could have gone to just have this character again, because like I said, he was completely like evaporated in the second story by his dad. I do like how in the second story the dad just comes out of nowhere, kills his son, and boom, disappears. I like that. There's no real like guesswork, there's no extra story, there's no diving into it in the third story. It's just that's it, there's no question is answered. I thought that really lent well to the story in general. So of these three, it's my order preference is probably 1, 2, and 3 as they were written and released as well. It's just some cool fun of this obsessed stalker that's always there. There's a mystery to him. He manipulates things, events, and half the city to try and get what he wants. And it's just George and Linda trying to outsmart this man. And yeah, I will rate the 3 together as 4 out of 5. Just a lot of fun. Until next time, enjoy what you're reading and enjoy life. Thank you.